The Big Show.
All right, Ross, we're doing something new today, talking about the divisional round losers, kind of recapping everything from them for their seasons and whatnot. But this was your segment, so do you want to kind of give your prelude
Well,
to it?
so 2 weeks ago, we did the after the season ended, we did the power rankings, right?
Yeah.
And then after the wild card round on Tuesday, we did we went over the Cowboys game the night before, Cowboys Bucks. Thought about getting a guest today, but we'll see. I mean, I'm going to get a guest tomorrow, and we'll have Greg on Thursday. I guess I thought it might be cool to kind of give a lay of the land, so to speak, about how I feel about the divisional round losers, the teams that lost in the divisional round, because I mean they made the final 8, and if you make the final 8, you are a darn good team, and you are very much in the mix, to be going to Super Bowls in subsequent years. So I just thought it was interesting just to talk about the teams and sort of where they go from here. The Jacksonville Jaguars, we'll start with them, Jack. Man, I feel pretty good about them. Okay, ETN's good at running back. Trevor Lawrence was playing better and better. Their wide receiving core, Christian Kirk had a nice year. Marvin Jones was solid. Zay Jones had a really good year. So I don't have the free agent status of all these guys, but I know like Evan Ingram signed a 1-year deal. So that's something that the Jags need to consider is bringing him back because he had a really good, productive year for them. I think their offensive line is solid. I think that there's an argument to be made that there's some potential places to upgrade there. Defensively, I think that they could have some upgrades there as well, like on the back end. But what I think is most interesting maybe about the Jaguars is they're not far away. They could always have another edge rusher, right? Like they could always have another D tackle. I like their off the ball linebackers with Foye Oluokun and Devin Lloyd. I like Rayshawn Jenkins at safety. I like Cisco. I mean, the thing that's interesting to me about the Jaguars is I look at their roster and I don't look at it and think, boy, they got a lot of work to do or they're in a bad spot. I look at it and think they're in a good spot and that they just need to kind of grow up together. Like they needed to take those strides this year. And look, there will be some roster tweaking, certainly, but this is a pretty good roster that is not far away. They're just kind of young and inexperienced, but they got that experience in big games, 3 of them. Titans game, Chargers game, Chiefs game. The question is, what are the little tweaks they can make to try to cement themselves again in the AFC South, but also to try to take a step towards what seems to be the elite of the AFC, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Buffalo Bills. But I think the Jaguars are in a good spot there, Jack.
We'll move next to the New York Giants, who lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 38-7.
So the Giants are in a much different situation than the Jaguars. The Giants, it's like they've been working so hard to get back to respectability. And this year, they were sort of even better, I would say, than respectability. But yet now they have all these free agents. I mean, I don't know. I don't really look at that as being a good problem to have. I mean, first of all, they have, like, I don't feel as good about the Giants as I do about the Jaguars because the Giants still have holes in their roster, more so than the Jags. Wide receiver, they need to upgrade. Offensive line, they need to upgrade. Linebacker, they need to upgrade. Corner, they need to upgrade. I mean, there's a bunch of places on the Giants roster where you look at them and think they got to get better there. I mean, to really have a chance, they got to get better there. But then even some of their guys that, you know, they don't need to get better at necessarily. They're free agents. Daniel Jones is a free agent. Saquon Barkley is a free agent. My guess, I think they'll try pretty hard to get Saquon Barkley signed to a long-term deal, but they were pretty far apart supposedly during the season. They were trying to sign him for like $12 million a year. He wants more like McCaffrey, $16 million a year. That's a pretty big divide. So that's one thing to note. And then Daniel Jones, I kind of feel like after that game on Saturday night, Jack, I kind of feel like they're going to franchise tag him. I mean, I'm sure they would offer him like a team-friendly long-term deal, but I just don't know that Daniel Jones will do that, and I don't think he should do that, right? I think he could bet on himself, but if you're the Giants, he played pretty poorly Saturday night, and I don't know that you want to commit multiple years of guarantees to Daniel Jones at this point. I don't know that you want to do that. I think that they might. I think franchise tag is the right play for Daniel Jones, and probably, in my mind, the non-exclusive. Is there someone out there that could come in and give him a lot of money? Yeah, maybe, but I don't know that I see that happening. And if it does, then the Giants have the chance to match if they want, or they get whatever it is, the 2 first-round picks. So I think I'd probably give him. I might get Joel Corey on tomorrow to talk about this, just so I know the dollar amounts. But I might give him the non-exclusive franchise tag if I'm the Giants. But that's my concern with the Giants is they just have a bunch of holes and a bunch of free. Dexter Lawrence wants a new contract, and they better give him one because he was clearly their best player. Now I'm sure they picked up his 5th-year option, right? I can look that up. But I'm sure they picked up Dexter's 5th-year option. So they have him under contract next year, but that's not the same as they picked up his 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
So he's making $12 million next year, but I am quite sure that he wants, a long-term contract now. And I don't blame him with the season that he had. So the Giants have a lot of work to do.
Next up is the Buffalo Bills, probably the best team of the bunch that was eliminated this past weekend after a disappointing loss at home to the Cincinnati Bengals.
So this is tough, Jack, because they were the favorites coming into the year. They had very high expectations, and they just clearly got outplayed by the Bengals. And quite frankly, they didn't even look that great the week before against Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins. The Bills, first of all, need to get better up front on both sides of the ball. I don't think Gabe Davis took the step forward this year that they needed or wanted him to take. So I think that they would consider trying to get another receiver, trying to get another weapon on the outside to pair with Stephon Diggs, and maybe think of Gabe Davis more as a number 3. I don't know what they'll do up front on the offensive line. They had good depth with guys like Bobby Hart and Van Roten and Quessenberry, but it's not like the Eagles' offensive line, right? Like they have good players. They don't have great players. Do they try to make an upgrade there? I think people are perpetually talking about them maybe getting a running back. I don't know that they need to do that or they will do that. They definitely need to get better up front on defense. And the thing is they've invested a lot of resources there. A lot. Jordan Phillips and Settle, and then you have Von Miller and Ed Oliver and Rousseau and Boogie Basham. And that's the thing that, the Jags I feel pretty good about, Jack. The Giants have a lot of work to do. The Bills, it's just kind of head scratching. I would not be shocked if they make coaching staff changes And I don't think it would be McDermott, but I think they're going to make some changes on the coaching staff because it feels like they got to shake something up there because that was a very disappointing game. They weren't really even that competitive against the Bengals. That was surprising. I'll be curious. The Bills are the one I guess I would say I'm the most curious about where they go and what they do from here.
And we'll wrap things up with the team with possibly the most bleak outlook being the Dallas Cowboys after their tough loss to the San Francisco 49ers.
Why do you say that?
Well, they're all talking about everybody. Oh, Dak Prescott was getting a lot of blame. We got Ezekiel Elliott's contract has a big cap hit that they really can't get out of unless they restructure it. I'm sure he's not really willing to do that. Those are the two big. It's mainly from a cap perspective, is why I would say that.
Well, Dak is fine. Dak's a good quarterback. I don't know that I have a great explanation for all the turnovers, all the interceptions, but he's got to figure that out because that hurt them a lot and he knows it. I don't know if they'll look at Michael Gallup as being good enough to be their number 2. I would think that they would consider trying to get somebody else in there as a number 2 and see if Gallup's a 3. Or maybe they just think he'll be fine next year, a year further removed from that injury, which is certainly possible. On the offensive line, they've got some decisions to make up there. They'll get Steele back at right tackle. Are they still going to roll with Tyron Smith at left tackle? Tyler Smith at left guard? I mean, they've got some interesting situations there. McGovern's a free agent. My guess is he'll go somewhere else as a starter. I think I'd have to look and see exactly what the cap hit is for Zeke. My guess is he will stay there on a restructured contract or take a pay cut because he's not going to get that anywhere else. Looks like the dead cap, if they got rid of him, would be almost $12 million. You know, that's not ideal, but that's doable. I mean, the dead cap this for 2022 would have been $30 million. So I think $12 million dead cap for Zeke is doable. I don't think he really wants to go somewhere else. I think he sees the value of being a Dallas Cowboy. I think he wants to stay there. And I think they'll even be able to get him to take a pay cut. And they'll be like, listen, pay cut or we got to cut you. I don't think he wants to try to go somewhere else. No one's going to give him close to that money. So even for him to get a pay cut from the Cowboys from $11 million for this year down to $5 million, I think he would consider that. So the Cowboys are interesting. Defensively, I think they could continue to get better at D tackle and probably at corner are two of the positions I think that they'll look at. But they obviously have a very talented team. It would not have shocked me if they had won the Super Bowl. Here's a problem. Tony Pollard's a free agent. I mean, that is bad. Now, him getting hurt probably actually helps them a little bit, and that might scare some teams off. And maybe they end up franchising Tony Pollard if they can't get him signed to a long-term deal. So I thought that was interesting, Jack. We'll see. We always like your feedback for stuff like that. I mean, theoretically, we should do that for like every team at some point in February, like before free agency, kind of give a post-mortem on all of them. But it's just fresh in my mind because these are all teams in the divisional round.